And
Hey.
we'll give the rationale afterwards, but some of
Yeah.
these quite easily fit in one or the other.
Yeah. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. First, well, refresher here. Um, I broke down the scores for this week. So this is just the ranking of what the power rankings were last week and what those people scored. So this is just the order we had from last week, and then I also have in my power rankings here updated the cumulative wins. So these are the league wins. So if anybody's curious about that, there you go. And I will be using these to help. And just like last week, I'm going to drag these around. I've actually already done my rankings, but I just hid the numbers for suspense effect. So
No spoilers on this show.
no spoilers. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to drag these over here so I can fuck around with it. And yeah, we can just get right into it here. So we're going to start from the bottom. It always puts my team up at the top, but I don't want to start with myself every week. So we're going to start down here with Mark and Scotty. And we're just going to go through.
Classic top 10 AP matchup right here.
Classic. Um, yeah, Scotty's still going to stay high on my list. Like, I just knew already coming in that he was going to stay. Like, I think he's just going to end up being number one still. His team, not only has he had 2 high score weeks, but even this is like not a good week for him, and he's still cleared 100. And I think there's something to be said for consistency. And he kind of got, like, he even had the points to win this matchup. He just left him on his bench. Yeah. So
I think week in, week out, Scotty's going to be a top 3 team, right?
Yeah.
He will end up the season averaging somewhere between 105 and 110 per week.
And that's probably a number 1 finish. Yeah, like that's probably going to be good enough
he will
to get
have
him.
a week where we see him in the 90s.
Yeah.
But there's enough on his team that, any given week somebody flops somebody else, like Xavier Worthy, right?
Yeah.
He's got enough out there to just pick up the slack.
Yeah. But he even knew that. So even with Kyler having a down week, he knew Xavier was going to be kind of hit or miss. Even with those, he's still like fine for the most part. Even Justin Jefferson is proving that he is going to be, I guess, like semi-quarterback proof. He's put up 2 good weeks. I will say, just to shit on him a little bit, that like both last week against the Texans and then this week, he scored like, I think more than half his points on like 1 play in each of those games. But whenever you're putting up 20 points, it really it's nothing. A-Chain, this one does worry me, not because A-Chain's bad, but just with Tua, the whole Dolphins offense just looked like shit this week. So it's like, is that gonna continue? We don't know.
Look, I'm gonna say something that many people might question. I think you have to write off every Dolphins player for the rest of this year.
Wow, that's a very mighty hot take of you. I don't know if I'm that hard on it yet, but it's definitely has proven already that it's not going to help anybody. No one's going to benefit.
I give them a couple more weeks until the coaching staff and the management realize they got to bring in some sort of Band-Aid fix.
Dude, if they do like a Joe Flacco from the Browns last year or something, like I don't know who you go and get right now, like a Jameis Winston or I don't know, but yeah, they're in like prime competing window. The Dolphins are, and it's like they're kind of sacrificing a year if they don't. A year like Mostert's already getting hurt. Tyreek's another year older, another year on his contract. Jalen Waddle's going to be off his rookie deal soon, if not already. Like, they got to hit now. They don't have time to wait. They're not in build mode. They're in, like, go mode.
Yeah. The only thing
But
I'm worried about from Scotty's team is given the Dolphins kind of a write off. He's one injury away from being very, very thin in the depths.
yeah, he does have Ken Walker coming back. But yeah, the rest of these guys are like, who cares really about any of these dudes?
Yeah,
Keon
I mean,
Coleman might be a flex fill in. I don't know. But yeah, other than Ken Walker, it is pretty thin on the roster, or on the bench. But the roster is still top tier in my mind.
roster strong. Yeah, for sure. Again, he's one injury away from
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Yeah. So spoiler, he's still gonna be my number one. But now we'll get to a more interesting team, Mark's team. So I totally shit on it. Me and Carl said there's no way he can start Caleb again. Caleb has looked like total dog shit. Mark just rode with it though. He was still putting up positive points, and then Caleb actually throws his first couple touchdowns this week, puts up 20 points. I don't know if it was like lucky or stupid of Mark to start him again, but he did get points. So yeah, that was fine. Tony Pollard had a bad week. J.K. Dobbins kind of came back down to earth, but then the receivers that we called out in the preseason, except for this one glaring omission right here, all his receivers did work, even at the tight end pop off. So still a very solid team, but I don't think Caleb Williams is going to average 20 still. I mean, this is a good game. I think Tony Pollard is not as good as his first couple weeks. He's better than 3 points, but and then Dobbins, I mean, he had a killer first 2 weeks, and again, like, he's not going to be this bad, but I feel like these guys are kind of coming back down. And then really, though, I think I said this last week too, the Tyreek value, like you were just saying, with Tua out, is like, he's not you. I'm not going to go as far as you said he's worthless, but like, Mark started out as our top team in large part because of how strong this receiver core was, and Tyreek finishing as like a 1 or a 2, and that's just looking less and less likely. So
I don't see Tyreek finishing top 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Until
be surprised.
That solution is fixed, it's not going to happen. Caleb Williams, good fantasy week, poor overall week. I don't think he's the quarterback everybody hoped and dreamed.
We're only 3 weeks into his career. We don't know yet.
Look, Mark was 2 points away from starting 0-3.
He was. But he's
if
still.
I'm Mark, I'm worried. I'd be worried about my team.
Yeah. I feel like his team has kind of performed at the bottom end of expectations, but I will say this. His weekly scores, I'm looking back now, 102 in week 1, 92 in week 2, and 105 in week 3. So, like, I think he's scoring at the lower end of what I expected. Like, he's just not winning as much or not putting up, 120 points or whatever. He still hasn't gone below 9. He's hit over 100 2 out of 3 weeks. I still think he's a solid team, better than my team. So, but yeah, probably a little.
Look, I think he gets in on points 4 into the playoffs, but there's some things that if I'm Mark, I want to shore up on my roster.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Okay. Those 2 guys down. Yeah, I'm glad you hopped on a call whenever your team just absolutely popped off. So why don't you just tell us why your team is the absolute best and why Saquon is going to carry you to a championship this year?
I mean, look, it's not hard to do well when you have 2 players, but no, 45% of your points. No doubt, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't see my team putting up under 100 points a week.
In any given week, you mean?
I might have a week of 90, but I think that there's enough talent on this roster that it's going to come down to management, right? Picking who plays which week, right? Deontay Johnson's finally showing up. The Panthers offense, while not great, had signs of life. Addison's still not back yet, but he'll
Yeah.
be back at some point. And I think I get to a point where it's, hey, am I optimizing the starters? But I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the team's easily good for 100 points a week. I see this team being fairly consistent.
Yeah, I mean, so far it has been. I've been very impressed with Aaron Jones. I kind of honestly thought he was past his prime after last year, but he's kind of found new life on the Vikings. And then, yeah, Josh Jacobs had a down week, but he's been good too. Like, there's enough players that can score points that I do kind of agree it's going to be hard for you to score too low. Even your bench, Kittle, Addison, Deontay Johnson, even Brandon Cooks, I think, like all these guys are going to be good enough that once we start getting into the bye weeks, you're going to have no problem filling in starters. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say anything but good things about 135. So, where did I put you? Yeah, you're definitely high up on my rankings after this week for sure.
Again, with Scotty, top 3, I think, when I look at rosters.
Yeah, I would agree. Then we jump over
and then we get to Travis.
Travis.
Look, Travis is just he's if on the scale of lucky to unlucky, Travis has been unlucky. He's 369 points against through 3 weeks.
His here, let me pull this back over so we can see. So again, this column this includes week 3. This is the schedule comparison records. So this should try to normalize out how good you were compared to the rest of the league. Although this is over the entire season.
This puts him in 4th. This
would put him in 4th place. So would you call that unlucky? Yeah, I mean, he's 1 and 2, I guess. So for having kind of a 4th ranked strength of schedule, I guess, for lack of a better way to say that. And losing to you, who just, I think we both agree you're top 3 team. It's he's still putting up points, but
slotting in a 4th place, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't think it's terribly unlucky, but I don't think it's
the one thing Travis has playing against him is he's making a conscious decision to start 2 wide receivers on the same team. And that's always a tough thing to do, not only from a share perspective, but that team has an off week, and there goes a quarter of your roster.
Yeah. I'm sure he would love to start A.J. Brown if he would get back on the field. And I will say, just from watching a little bit of the Bengals, I think Chase Brown might be the better running back over Zach Moss, but they're committed to Zach Moss, at least for the time being. Spears, Dowdle, like they're whatever. Shakir is he could, catch some balls, but I think watching what Josh Allen did last night, this isn't like something you can count on. Like, I understand why he didn't start him, but this is still like a good flex throw in. So yeah, I don't expect he'll start these 2 guys all the time. And honestly, even getting like 20 out of these 2 dudes, considering how the Texans played, I'm kind of shocked to see these numbers, to be honest, because I feel like the Texans offense was maybe the worst I've seen it in the last 2 or 3 years this week. So even getting these 20 points is, they add up. So Amari Cooper.
Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, and then Jalen Hurts didn't do that great. So, I don't know, kind of a down week. Still no RB2. Kamara is human, 13 points, and he still scores 95. Like, this is still a, top 5 team to me. So, yeah, good job. Good job, Travis. I guess keep, 1 and 2. Just keep putting up points, because that might be how you have to get in the playoffs. All right, next up. Carl and Chris, what do you think about Jaden Daniels? Do you think he's actually good at football, or do you think he is just running a lot. Do you think this is like sustainable? Because he's 26, 15, and 30 in his first 3 NFL games. I saw there was a stat in the post game last night that he is the first, or he had the highest completion percentage of any rookie quarterback in a game ever, minimum 20 attempts, and he completed like 91% of his passes or something. Like, is this like a sustainable thing? And look how much he's running too. 16, 10, 12 times.
Don't. So this is my issue with the Washington, right?
Yeah.
I think they've gotten a good matchup for 2 out of the 3 weeks. I think when they get into the meat of their schedule, they play the Giants again, they play Philly, Pitt, Chicago, teams with much better defenses than what they've played.
Yeah.
I don't think it's sustainable. Is he good for 20, 22 points a game? Sure. I mean, he's the rushing touchdown away from being, 23 points this week. And I think that's probably where he is. He's not terrible, but I don't know if the offense is going to keep up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I also feel like this is just like totally anecdotal. I have no like stats to back this up, but I feel like a lot of times the rookie quarterbacks kind of go one of two ways too. It's that they either majorly struggle or they kind of like find a seam to play in, and it works really, really well until defenses get like enough film on them and kind of figure them out, that they kind of shut down the things that they're like doing differently than I guess what the defense has seen so far. So I don't know if that'll happen to Jaden Daniels or if he'll just end up, being incredible forever. But I mean, for the time being, yeah, Carl's going to take those points. So James Conner.
I think if I'm Carl, I'm worried about my running back situation. Like,
I think he is. Yeah.
I wouldn't call the team trash. Like, I wouldn't put them in the trash category, but I think they're overplaying a 3-0 start.
Travis Kelce, sure. Yeah.
Travis Kelce this year, he's got to break up with Taylor Swift. If you're a Chiefs fan, you're hoping that relationship fails. Jamar Chase, no doubt, gonna be good. So if Daniels can continue between the two of them, he's easily banking 50 points a week. And then it's how does he get 50 points out of the other 7 people on his team? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think this is the point distribution, just scrolling through here, is weird. CD had his little tantrum on the sideline. Rashid Shaheed, 0 points. Travis Kelce, 5 points. Christian Kirk had 13 in a game where the Jags looked absolutely lost. Yet, so like all these guys that like either didn't do anything or had games that looked really ugly, yet he's still posting almost 110. So, a little weird on the way that he got to this win, but it's still better than the last 2 weeks he had. I think Jamar Chase benefited massively from T. Higgins coming back. So we'll see if this can continue. But, yeah, I don't know. This team didn't pop off in a way where I'm like, okay, they're back. I still don't think this is like a above average team, but, a win's a win. So good for Carl.
Look, if you can start 6-7-0 for the season, you're pretty much guaranteed playoffs.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you do it. All right. Then we have Crams here. Man, it's just been rough for his team.
Would you like to play the game? Trash. Crams' team, certified trash.
Yeah. Look, this is not good.
When Drake London is your third highest point scorer on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to talk shit on anybody this week, but I kind of agree. Najee Harris continues to be bad. Laporte is nothing. Rashee Rice, he might actually end the year as a top 5 wide receiver some way, somehow. I don't know how that's happening, but I mean, yeah. But otherwise, yeah, it's he'll get some points out of these dudes, Drake London and Zach Moss. Derek Carr has actually had a pretty decent first couple games, but I don't know if it's gonna. I
Well,
don't
so
know
this is
what
the
it's gonna
issue
look
with Derek
like.
Carr. He's putting up 20 points, 22 points a game,
Yeah,
right? But the team has looked phenomenal.
yeah, they have.
And they're riding Kamara right now. So do
Yeah,
you see a change in the future where he's, not that he needs to be throwing more. He's, averaging plenty of yards, but he's not getting passing TDs like he should.
yeah,
They're getting in the red zone and just letting Kamara run around.
yeah. As long as I don't know how many of Kamara's touchdowns have been receptions. Like how much is how much benefit can Carr like siphon off of Kamara's performance, right? Like if they can continue throwing screen passes and shovel passes to Kamara, then Carr is still going to get fantasy points. It's really not about is he a good quarterback, right? That's in fantasy. It's
He's
just
had
do you
four
get the
rushing, one
numbers?
receiving.
4 rushing, 1 receiving. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't bode well then for Derek Carr. And not bombing it out too. He did target, I guess, Rashid Shaheed 5 times because he had a touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks. So not getting your long threat the ball is definitely not a good thing for Derek Carr and Crams. But who knows? Maybe it'll improve. But yeah, right now I'm pretty low on Chris's team too. And really like nothing, maybe Keenan Allen coming off the bench at some point. Who knows if Isaiah Pacheco even comes back this year. Like, but man, it's hard to find a lot to look forward to on this team, in my opinion.
I don't disagree.
Okay. Yeah. All right, then we'll go up to Logan and John. I didn't even see this one yet. Anthony Richardson. 10 of 20, 2 picks. He didn't even get the yardage rushing. Like this is yeah, Scotty would be rightfully bragging right now about calling this one. I mean it is only I guess, one game. Like it wouldn't surprise me at all if he scored 30 points next week against the Steelers.
Look, let me just give you this stat line.
Yeah.
He's had twice as many interceptions than he has touchdown throws.
Oh yeah, yeah.
More than
no,
twice. He's got 7 ints and 3 TDs.
He's not going to complete half his passes that he throws this season. He won't. Yeah, it's like hard to watch. But is he going to run enough? That's the kicker. That's the yeah, you don't start Anthony Richardson hoping for passing touchdowns. You start him hoping for 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns a game, and you deal with it
but
when
this
he
week
doesn't.
they were all in on Taylor.
Yeah, that is the good thing about the stack here that Logan ran is if Richardson's not getting the touchdowns, then Taylor is, which I guess kind of caps your upside on having a quarterback and running back going off at the same time. But, I mean, it provides a floor. Even with your quarterback scoring 6, he's still putting up over 100. And a lot of that's because Taylor's one of the last real workhorse RBs in the NFL, and he got the carries.
Taylor, Henry, Neighbors. That's where all of Logan's points are coming from. And it's not a bad place to be sitting. Right? In my opinion, I think he can go stream a better quarterback and start putting up some higher numbers.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, like even Jared Goff sitting on his bench, that's not much better. But yeah, I mean, he's got a couple guys he could plug in off the bench. DeAndre Hopkins, Zamir White's just trash. Is Madison taken over yet? Not yet, but he will.
It's only a matter of time.
I mean,
he'll get the touches.
These 3 guys are carrying him. Jamison Williams has had a good first 2 weeks too, but down week for him. Malik Neighbors is probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. 12 targets, 2 touchdowns after 18 targets last week. I mean, this is unreal. Like, yeah, but I mean, if the Giants are just going to pepper him with 10 plus targets a game, it's going to be hard for him to be very not good. So yeah, I mean, a weird team from Logan. A few guys just absolutely like shouldering the load for you, but if you're putting up points, then you can't complain too much, I guess. So yeah, I think we had Logan. What do we have Logan last week? 7. I feel like he's still right around an average team, in my opinion.
He's in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the right place for him to be. He'll figure something out as the season goes on.
Yeah, especially like you mentioned, if he can get just even like a decently stable quarterback, whether that's Richardson just kind of like rushing for a reliable 50 yards a game, which I do think is possible. Like we saw Justin Fields do that last year on the Bears. He was not a very good thrower, but he was running for 50 plus yards a game, and that made him a very viable fantasy quarterback. I feel like Anthony Richardson could absolutely do that. He just has to throw well enough to open up a run game for himself, which I don't know if that's likely, but it's in the realm of possibility. It's in the timeline somewhere in some universe. I don't know if it's this one, though.
Averaging 2 picks a game, though, is offsetting 40 rushing yards. It's
40 rushing yards is not going to cut it either. Like, he's going to have to be... Like 8 for 24 is not it. He needs to be at 50 plus a game, honestly. So he's going to have to figure out, and he's going to have to score more than one rushing touchdown every 3 weeks. He needs to be scoring like one every couple games. So it's still possible. But we'll see what Logan decides to do with him. All right. Then we got John Boy here. Patty Mahomes, I mean, not exciting, but you can't be upset about it. He kind of is what he is at this point. He's not a fantasy quarterback, but he's just so good that like he's going to not have horrible weeks. So that's fine. ETN only 8.5, but the Jags were down so far. I don't even really like ETN as a running back, but I mean, I could even defend this week just because the Jags got down so fast and so early that there wasn't really a lot of time to run the ball. So you just kind of eat this week if you're John with this guy. Jerome Ford, whatever. Marvin Harrison catches a touchdown. Cool. Trey McBride got hurt. Yeah. I don't know. Like, still nothing jumps out here as like, you didn't score 90, and I don't see enough guys on here that got so screwed that it was like, oh, no, but wait, just actually wait for Marvin Harrison to catch a touchdown. Well, he did, and you still scored 90. Or wait for George Pickens. Like, I feel like this is about what most of these guys are. There might be a little bit more room with a guy like ETN or something. But especially if Trey McBride, who was one of the only decent tight end options up until this time, if he misses any time at all. I just feel like this is a kind of a below average team to me still. So he had a great week last week, John did, but not even getting to 90 is rough. So, and
he's had opportunities too, right? Like his points against isn't that high. Not the bottom half of the league. Easy choice.
Yeah, definitely bottom half for sure. All right, interesting one. Let's talk about Trondheim's team. He's been basically dead last. I don't know if I had him last in the draft power rankings. No, I had him like in the middle, but we kind of knew that he would. After week 1, he didn't even hit 60 points. He kind of dropped to the bottom, and he's been there for the last couple weeks. But then he pops off with 105. I mean, way to go, Trond. Good job. I don't think that this is sustainable. I don't think this is like, it's unfortunate you lost because I still feel like this is going to be one of his better weeks.
Absolutely. Dak's not putting up 32 points very often this season. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think so either. The rushing touchdown really like took him over the top, but I mean, this is kind of what I expected out of most of these guys. Carson Steele, 17 for 72, whatever. James Cook got another touchdown. Good job. It was a blowout game. Ayuk, fine. Zay Flowers. I think the Ravens almost didn't pass the ball at all in their game against the Cowboys. They just like ran all over them. Brock Bowers not getting, he only had 4 targets, which is down from the last 2 weeks. Although I heard I saw something on Twitter, the Raiders might fuck around with putting Aiden O'Connell back at quarterback just because Minshew isn't really like giving them what they want. I don't know. Is that good, bad? Who the fuck knows? DeAndre Swift, this is a bright spot for Trond only because he is not good. and they have other good running backs on this team, and they are like just absolutely committed to running DeAndre Swift. So if you're Trond, like, yeah, the points aren't there, but like he's staying on the field. He's getting the majority of the running back snaps. But yeah, he's just not efficient. Like he's not putting up enough points to make your team any good. But I mean, I guess he's on the field. So, but yeah, who really cares about that? Yeah, still like, yeah, nothing on here that's making me think this is like a team waiting to post 100 every week. I mean,
Look, I don't want to call it a fluke, but I'd be shocked if he puts up another 100-point week, maybe one more through the entire season.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I feel like anybody can have an incredible week or a terrible week. Like I'd almost be shocked if Trond or anybody doesn't pop off with at least a couple 100-point weeks through the course of the season. But I mean, yeah, I guess just as a sentiment, I agree. Like this is not the norm. This is Trond kind of like hitting his ceiling in my mind, and it might happen again, but still, this doesn't change much of my opinion about his team. Although, good for Dak, good for Quentin Johnson catching a touchdown, but still, I don't think that moves him up. Talking about a mover though, Caleb here, high score of the week. So I had Caleb. This is where Scotty and I differed on draft power rankings. I had Caleb at number 3 in my draft power rankings. Scotty had him at like dead last or something. And then after week 1, Caleb only scored 86 points in week 1. And so he ended up in the number 9 spot of our first week power rankings. And then last week, he scored 111, and then this week he scored 138. Like his team is just putting up numbers. Like there's just no other way to say it. Joe Burrow is like bouncing back. Breece Hall's killing it. Look, even Ramondre Stevenson, who had a good first 2 weeks, just did nothing this week for whatever reason. Terry McLaurin catching touchdowns again. DK Metcalf. He's getting another benefit very similar to the DeAndre Swift running back situation. Kyron Williams, the efficiency is dog shit this year. He's like averaging under 3 yards a carry or something. But they just run him out. 90% snaps for running back, 24 carries. Like, he is not good this year as an NFL running back. And a lot of that's probably to do with missing Cooper Kupp and Puka. So, maybe not entirely his fault, but efficiency-wise, he sucks. He's not good. But the Rams don't care. They're going to keep running him out there. So, fantasy football-wise, you keep starting him, and he's going to get you 30. So, I mean, shit, 3 touchdowns.
Look, I think if I'm him, I'm feeling good about the team right now.
Yeah,
I'm
you
worried
have
about
to.
playing him in a few weeks. I think you're going to be seeing this team pop off a few more times.
Yeah, I do think. So the question is, he's putting up points. If we're thinking about this in terms of a power rankings, right? This isn't just he did a good job. Like, cool, you got a high score, you made some money, good job. The question is, from a power ranking perspective, is this sustainable? 111 last week, 138 this week. Like, he's putting up high scores. He's not going to end up as my number 1 team this week, but it's like, how high do you put a team like this? I think, like Breece Hall, I think, everyone expected him to finish very highly, and I think he will. But some of these are like, I feel like they're not totally sustainable. I don't think, like, Terry McLaurin hasn't had 100 yards and a touchdown in like a few years. DK, he's not going to, this is going to be a high score for him. Kyron's not going to get 3 touchdowns every game. Jordan Mason.
I think he's in like the 5 slot. I do. Like I agree with you. I think this might have been the upper tier of performance. Yeah. I think his team can squeeze out 100 points though.
Yeah, there are enough guys who can go off that it kind of gives him a floor of how low he can go. But I don't think Terry McLaurin's a season-long wide receiver 1. Like it's just not. I'm not buying it.
No, it's 100 yards and a touchdown on 4 receptions.
Yeah. Right? So like, good job to Caleb. Just tempering expectations though. Whenever we go to power rank people, that he's not.
So what you're saying is he's pretty low on your list.
He's not low. He's not low. Yeah, he's not low, but he's not going to be like number 1 or even number 2 from what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, he's probably not even going to be that high. All right. And so then the last matchup to look at here is me and K-Man. So let's talk about K-Man, because I don't even want to look at my team right now. Josh Allen scored 33. He could have scored 50. Like, that was maybe the best half of football I've seen out of a quarterback last night. Maybe in like the last 5 years, 10 years maybe. Unbelievable. He could not miss. He was just hucking it down the field, hucking it and chucking it. Yeah, unbelievable. It's crazy that he only scored 33. If the Jags even would have just like had a semblance of an offense and made it a shootout, I think he could have absolutely gotten to 50 points by the end of the game. But yeah, he'll take the 30. And I don't think this is even really a fluke. I think 33 and essentially 1/2 of football is obviously not real. But I mean, he's been the number 1 quarterback like for the last half decade. Yeah, I think
Josh Allen's doing Josh Allen.
He's doing Josh Allen, yeah.
You gotta be
so yeah, and good job for K-Man for getting the win over me. That being said, I do think that this team is still probably a little below average. And spoiler alert too, even though he just beat me, I do think he's going to still rank below me because maybe I'm just trying to cope. So let me make the case for that. 1, Rashad White is not very good. He continues to be bad. He is still losing carries to Bucky Irving. I think he just got out touched by Bucky Irving. 6 carries for him, 9 for Bucky Irving, who's also running more efficiently. Like, he's going to lose a starting running back, basically. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I don't think he is incredible. Devontae Smith just got, so like, Scotty just traded him, Devontae Smith, this week. Charbonnet goes off for like a couple touchdowns. I think even, did I see Kyle Pitts caught like, he had like 8 points or something, which this year 8 points at tight end is like incredible. And Devontae Smith gets carted off the field, his first game back on Matt's roster. So I don't know if they've a concussion. We don't know how long he'll be out for, but like, he is one of your better players on your roster, and he just got knocked out of the game for an indeterminate amount of time.
If you're Matt and you just made that trade, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, devastated. It's like an abusive relationship, Matt, with this team. Not keeping Puka, keeping Devontae Smith and trading him away, only to trade back for him. Puka getting hurt, Devontae getting hurt. It's like domestic violence or something. It's like he keeps running back to these people that just keep hurting him. And I feel bad for Matt. I don't even think it was necessarily like a bad trade, because he got, a good wide receiver for like an extra tight end essentially. So I'm not like shitting on him making that trade. It's just incredibly unlucky how that shook out. But ultimately, yeah, like I don't think that helps his team very much. I still think Matt is going to win some games, in my opinion. But if you're relying on one guy, a.k.a. Josh Allen, he's going to have to score 25 plus to give your team a chance to win most weeks when you're not playing my team. And yeah, he might do that because he's Josh Allen, but on the weeks he doesn't, I don't know if there's enough here on this roster at least until maybe Puka comes back or something, that it's going to be like a week in, week out threat. So, yeah, I mean, GG's on the win, but I'm admittedly not. My opinion on his team has not changed from being like sort of a middling type team in terms of roster talent.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Put my team off long enough. Get to the end. I'll say I feel like this is anecdotal. I feel like my team is good for about one of these a year, and this was the week. And my cope strategy here, what I tell myself so I don't cry, is that throughout the course of a season, players are going to be who they are. Like at the end of the year, however good Mike Evans is going to be, that's how good he's going to be. And if he sucks, then yeah, this is a shitty number. But I still believe Mike Evans has the talent to get to another 1,000-yard season, to keep kind of doing what he's doing. I still believe Davante Adams can still be good. Like, I still think these players are decent enough that they can still have good seasons. So I'm almost looking at it, the way I'm justifying this to myself is that they all decided to have down weeks at once, which means they're all going to, like, the regression on the other side of this is going to happen in future weeks, right? Like, my whole team just regressed all at one time outside of maybe David Montgomery here. But even Bijan only getting 12 points, like, that's not what I want out of a first round pick, right? Like, that's CJ just like having an absolutely he had an even worse game than this, to be honest. If anybody watched the Texans game, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He really could have had maybe like 3 or even 4 picks. His O-line was not helping him, but his decision making was hot trash. Yeah, maybe the worst game CJ's had since he started as a Texans quarterback. But our whole team sucked, so what can you do? Mark Andrews, no catches, but Isaiah Likely only 1. Like I said, the Ravens really weren't throwing the ball, so it's kind of like how long can you run out Mark Andrews? But he's my 3rd round pick. I can't, like, it's hard to give up on him after only 3 games, especially with how much I need to rely on him as a tight end. Like, if I give up on him and go just pick up some whoever off the waivers, and then someone else picks up Andrews and he turns back into himself, I would just die. So, yeah, I'm looking at this as like a bump on the road. It is
who was your second round? Was it Montgomery? No.
It was Davante Adams.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at your team. Look, I think Mike Evans at 2 points down week for sure. I question, and as a Sooner, it's tough to do. I question how effective Baker's going to be this year, right? I don't think Mike's scoring 30 points a game like he did the first week.
No.
And I don't think Atlanta as a team is going to do well. You say 12 points out of Bijan. He's only had the highest he's had through 3 weeks is 14, and I don't see him averaging more than that. Will he have a great week with multiple touchdowns? Sure.
Yeah.
You'll probably find a week where he has 25 points. But the team as a whole is not good enough for me to think that. And it's unfortunate because he's a great running back. And yeah, he's probably still a first-round pick, but it's tough.
So I'll actually echo this, and this is going to be like a hindsight is 2020 thing or whatever. But so even last year, he was coming out of Texas and he went to the Falcons, and everyone knew the Falcons were not going to be a great offense last year. And they weren't. They were really bad. But he was so good that he was still a first-round fantasy draft pick as a rookie running back. And that's great. I mean, he had a decent season. He finished as, like, running back number 12 in standard scoring anyway. He might have been a little bit higher in our league with half PPR or whatever. But a running back 12 is not a first-round draft pick. Like, he did not deliver first-round value last year. And so even going into this year, and again, this isn't even like, I'm not even commenting on his talent, but I'm just echoing what you said about the Falcons offense. is their offense good enough? Although I did think the offense would improve with Kirk Cousins, and they still might. We're only 3 weeks into the season. But I did, even at the draft, have like he didn't quite live up to it last year. He's got one more year under his belt, though. Maybe he'll be better. The offense will be better. But even I, had questions about, like, yeah, this worries me. Like, 12, 13, 14 points, that's like an RB2. And I spent a first-round pick on him. Like, I'm almost more worried about Bijan than CJ, right? Like, I think CJ is going to bounce back and be, like, an adequate quarterback. And the fact that I kept him in the 6th is, like, he only needs to be adequate. I don't need him to be Josh Allen. I need my first-round running back to be a first-round running back, and he is not doing that so far. So this, like, I think he's probably, like, one of my most worrying, and like you said, Mike Evans already had a solid week. He's done it once. Devontae Adams had a good week last week, 21. Bijan hasn't even done it yet. 3 games. He hasn't done any, like, he hasn't carried me through a week yet. David Montgomery, my 5th-round pick, has had a much better season. So
it's just a tough spot to be when your first 3 draft picks are all hurting
underperforming.
You. Yeah. I mean, they're holding you back. Mark Andrews, again, a Sooner boy. I don't know if he's a 3rd-round pick.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously looking back, but it's been so between the tight ends just being down around the NFL this year, unbelievably, but also the usage of him. Like, I watch too much fantasy analysis, and all my favorite analysts are like, we do not understand what's happening. He was only on the field 33% of the snaps this week. Like, they're like, he's not on the injury report. They're not hearing anything out of, like, the Baltimore beat writers. Like, no one can explain why this dude, who's been a top tight end for the last half decade plus, is suddenly, he's really not even that old for a tight end. Tight ends tend to age pretty gracefully, all things considered. Like, nobody really has an explanation for, like, what is happening with this guy and his usage. And yeah, so it's like, I guess that's better than an injury.
Let me ask you this. Do you think he has a lingering injury? He only played 10 games last season.
So he did he got in a car wreck over the season and broke, like, a leg or something. So there has been speculation that maybe he hasn't bounced all the way back from that. But the NFL does tend to be pretty strict on listing injuries in the injury report every week, and he hasn't been on the injury report at all this entire season. So, like, could a broken leg have affected him? Sure. But it hasn't been, like, confirmed, or, he's not still going to therapy for it. He's not sitting out practices because of it. He's not on the injury report. But, like, could that be a reason? Absolutely. But it's just, like, it's very, very strange to watch a guy fall this far this fast for seemingly no reason, right? For no injury history, football-wise anyway. It's very, very odd, which is another reason that it's like, well, maybe it's just a weird quirk and he's about to bounce. I mean, he did have 9 points last week, but, I mean, shit, 1 target, no catches. Like, this is rough. So, I don't know, man. I just have to...
Where'd you put
write
yours?
It out? All right, here, I'll unveil my rankings this week.
Because this will tell us if you're still on the juice or not. If you're drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I'm drinking for sure. So my number 1 was Scotty. He's still hanging number 1. He lost this week, but even on a down week, he's over 100. You moved up to my number 2 spot. Like, your team is just delivering, and they're delivering in, like, what I feel like is a sustainable way. So yeah, moving on up. Travis, his team didn't have a bad week this week, but it's still solid. But just the fact that you're moving up means that he has had to move down my rankings. Similarly, Mark's team was fine. So Mark and Travis kind of started out as our 1-2. Travis's team has hung around a little bit more than Mark's, but their tight end or their receiver cores are just so solid that they're both still hanging out as top 5 teams. But like, I feel like you're pushing up to the top. Scotty's already been there. Caleb's team, I think it's a little less sustainable, which is why he came in at number 4 below you and Travis to me. Just because I don't know, maybe he can do it another week and then maybe that'll convince me. But I just feel like the source of some of his points weren't as sustainable as like what your team has been putting up. Just because I like at this point we're 3 weeks in the season and I just like am fully convinced Saquon's going to be the top running back, the most valuable player in the league. And that's just like, you're playing the league in easy mode. If you can get the top running back, it's an incredible advantage. So really again, Mark's team wasn't bad or anything, but they just like, Caleb scoring 140 points. So it's going to push past Mark. So that's my top 5. 6 was Logan. Solid week from him. The next 2 are probably like the controversial one for me anyway, that I think K-Man's going to have a problem with. I obviously got knocked down from an absolutely horrific week. But I feel like Matt's team, I feel like basically I still have some really talented players that just decided not to show up all at once. And that's what led to my bad week. But I'm not questioning the talent, at least for a lot of these guys. The situations might screw me, right? If Devontae doesn't have a quarterback, if Mark Andrews isn't running routes, if the Falcons offense isn't any good, then these guys might not put up points, but I don't think they're the cause. They're not hurt, and they're not, a lack of talent is not what is hurting my low scores. Whereas if we look at K-Man's, Rachaad White is losing his job. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 5 points. Isaiah Likely is just as bad as Mark Andrews. Devontae Smith, he just basically lost a wide receiver. I just don't think this. I can look at our lineup side by side, and I would still take my lineup, even seeing how badly he beat me. Obviously, Josh Allen is still great, but like the rest of this roster, I just don't feel like they're out talenting mine at this point. Still, so I think me and K-Man are about on the same tier. And then I guess I just have an ego, or maybe it's because I still have more cumulative wins even after this week. But yeah, he and I are 7 and 8, so which means he didn't move.
I think we can both agree that Matt's team is trending downwards, right?
Yeah,
the next few weeks will determine. The way I think about it is you have a bucket of folks 4, 5, 6, and you have a bucket of folks 7, 8, 9, and the next 3 weeks is going to determine where you guys shake out in there.
Yeah. And I feel like his players are like losing jobs, and I feel like mine are not. I guess that's like the best I can say it. Is I feel like I have better players that had a bad week, and I feel like he had worse players who did enough to win. And by that I mean Josh Allen and Chris Godwin got him some points, and that's all he needed.
Well, when you have a tight end that only gets 1 target, there's not really a job to lose, right?
Yeah, that's accurate. But he only, I likely only got 1 target too, so maybe they're just sharing the job at this point.
Look, I think your rankings, while today might be okay, I think you got both of you guys a little high.
Okay, so then,
like I said, we'll see.
No, this is interesting then. So you think we're high, which means you think, so the last 4 we had here, John, Carl, Trond, and Krams, who of those do you think, if any of these guys had to jump? So the way that I had it was John stayed about the same. He had a decent week, 90 points. Really, Chris had such a bad week, and he's not winning games, that he fell to 12 on my ranking, which then pushed up Carl and Trond 1 spot each. But that's basically how my bottom 4 shook out, is that John just like did enough to stay the same but not move up. And then Chris did bad enough that it pushed the bottom 2 guys up a spot each. So if you're saying that Matt and I are too high, do you push John above us? Do you give Carl some extra brownie points for, he is 3-0, And in terms of making the playoffs, that's a huge win. But, you even said his team some of this was not sustainable with Jaden Daniels and
And I
Travis
don't think it
Kelce.
is, but again, you put together a 5-0 start, whether your team's sustainable or not, right?
That's true. That's true.
He's at such an advantage to make playoffs above other people that like it gets kind of back to where the root of your power rankings are they just pure face value of a team, or is it, hey, are we trying to project the top 6 teams that are going to be in the playoffs?
Yeah, and I think
there's probably a team or two that's in your bottom 6 that make playoffs. Carl can absolutely make playoffs. Tron, we'll see if his team continues what they've been doing. I think a lot of people had Tron high on the post draft rankings, right?
Yeah, I had him number 7 draft power rankings, but then he came out and promptly threw out a sub 60 score. But he did have over 100 last week and over 100. So yeah, maybe I'm not giving Tron the props he needs, but even then his cumulative score here, and a lot of this is probably just from week 1 carrying over. When you post a 0.
Well, in week 1, he probably beat 0 people, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Beat 12 people through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Middle of the pack.
So maybe John, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, how do you shuffle these? Because John didn't have a horrible week either.
Well, like I said, I think Matt's team is on the down and down. It just hasn't shown up yet. I think there's some shuffling in there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And Mark, to be honest, Mark's team could easily keep sliding.
Dude, so, I feel like I've said this every power rankings, and I'll say it again here. It's rough that he isn't doing as well as we thought he would, although he did get the win this week, so that was good. But with these receivers, and now he might have actually, if Goddard turns into a real tight end, even Tyreek is going to be, this was a down week. He just his receivers are so good. J.K. Dobbins, I said, he's not going to score below 90 all year. And so far he hasn't. And I feel like just that consistency, if he can get a little bit of luck, and if he can get Joe Mixon back, and if he can get Jordan Love back, if he can just get a little bit of luck and get a couple of these guys healthy, his team is kind of slipping right now, but I could easily see him turning it around and posting some big weeks in the near future. But yeah, for now, it is what it is, and other people are putting up more points, so you're going to slide until that happens. But
you just got to hope that the pivot, it doesn't happen too late.
Yep.
Because it's hard to make up room in the back half this season.
It really, really is.
You'd know a little bit about that. How many times have you made the playoffs?
What is this year 11? So I'm 9 for 11 with 1 Sacco and no championships. But yeah, most of the time, although
not the best record. Not the best,
but we're trying. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's going to wrap up week 3 power rankings. You still got to send me some podcast art to put on thumbnails and stuff.
I'll send it, but we got it.
Cool. Okay.
Maybe I just need to get you the one without the watermark. So.
Yeah, I'll go update the YouTube channel and see if I can put a title card on the power rankings or something. But anyway,
and you let me know when we want to get them to record us an intro. You put on a little hotkey and you just play it.
We need a little jingle or something. I don't know.
Exactly. Look, Cyber has everything.
Hell yeah, I'm down. Okay, well that's week 3 in the books. So
all right,
good one, guys.
Next week.
Later.